3 a.m. The shocking truth about the dog that haunts our family, but what happened next? In the stillness of the night, when shadows danced with the flickering streetlights, a bone-chilling horror swept through the Johnson household. It was 3 a.m., the witching hour, and out of nowhere came the haunting sound, a low, mournful howl. The family dog, Max, once a lively golden retriever, had vanished without a trace, leaving an empty collar and a trail of dread. It was said that every time the clock struck 3, a dog could be heard lamenting in the dark. Countless neighbors whispered about peculiar occurrences, but tonight, those whispers turned into stomach-churning murmurs of fear. As Sarah, a 13-year-old girl, peered out of her window, her heart raced. The street seemed darker than ever, the air thick with unspeakable tension. A chill ran down her spine when she noticed ghostly paw prints emerging from the fog, leading into the thick woods behind their house. She could almost feel them, damp, cold, but somehow familiar. She remembered the countless times Max would bark joyfully at passing strangers, his tail wagging like a flag of happiness. But this felt different, sinister. The thought of a lost pet was clouded by something more frightening, as if that same joyful spirit had turned into a ghostly wail. In a heartbeat, her mother, Linda, rushed into the room, her face a mask of worry. "Have you heard it too? The howling?" she whispered, her voice shaky, trembling as her hands clutched the hem of her nightgown. "I can't shake this feeling like we're being watched." Sarah watched as her mother's eyes darted around the room, wide and wild, as if expecting something to leap from the shadows. A seep of fear gripped them both. They'd heard rumors of townsfolk who had seen a shadowy figure, a silhouette of an aggressive dog, roaming the woods at odd hours. Was Max returning? Or something else entirely? Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Suddenly, a loud crash erupted from the kitchen, breaking their fearful silence. Both jumped, their hearts pounding as they clutched each other tightly. The sound echoed down the hall like an alarm, and in a flash, they both rushed to see what had happened. As they rounded the corner, a terrible sight met them. The pantry door was ajar, cans strewn across the floor like soldiers fallen in battle. But there was no sign of an intruder, just the unsettling absence of Max. Their breaths quickened. "We have to go look for him," Sarah said, her voice trembling but steely. The darkness loomed heavy outside, but the call of her beloved dog felt like an irresistible force. As they steeled themselves to step outside, a burst of cold wind howled through the hallway, carrying with it a faint echo, almost like a dog's bark. Was it a message from beyond? The uncertainty brought a lump to Sarah's throat. What if they found a ghost instead of their beloved pet? What if the shimmering outline of Max held a sinister truth? The shadows seemed long and stretched as they gripped the doorway, hearts pounding, minds racing. Could they discover the truth in the haunted whispers of the night? Or would they join the haunting tale of what once was? They stood at the threshold, the chill of the night wrapping around them like a suffocating blanket. The trees loomed ominously, stark silhouettes against the starless sky. Each rustle of the leaves felt like whispers of long-forgotten secrets, echoing their fears and doubts. Sarah took a deep breath. The bracing air filled her lungs, yet it did little to quell the gnawing anxiety. "Come on," Linda urged, her voice barely more than a whisper. With trembling hands, she opened the door and stepped into the abyss of darkness, Sarah following close behind. The wooden floor creaked as if protesting against their departure, but they didn't look back. As they crossed the yard, A thin veil of fog cloaked their home, swallowing it whole. Sarah squinted into the dim light filtering from a distant lamppost, her heart hammering louder than the crunch of leaves beneath their feet. The woods waited ahead, enticing and terrifying all in one. They could only hope Max would bound back to them, tail wagging, the confused look of a lost dog now found. "Maybe we should call for him," Linda suggested, slightly lifting her voice above the wind. It was a feeble hope, but desperation clung to each syllable. "Max? Buddy! Where are you?" Sarah shouted, her voice trembling as it reverberated through the trees. For a moment, there was an unsettling silence, broken only by the rustle of branches overhead. Then, without warning, the echoes returned, not of their voices, but a deep, throaty howl. It sent shivers straight through Sarah's spine, forcing her to freeze in place. "What was that?" Linda gasped, her eyes wide, searching the darkness. I don't know," Sarah stammered, her courage fading. The sameness of that howl, mingled with a shadowy echo, churned her stomach. Something was wrong. This was no distant dog. Despite the overarching fear, an odd sense of determination ignited within her chest. This was Max's howl, twisted and eerie, but it was unmistakably his. She picked her way deeper into the underbrush, urging her mother along. "We have to find him, Mom." The trees closed in around them, each step revealing a world more distorted and sinister than the last. Twisted branches scraped together, producing a cacophony that shadowed their whispers. And then, unexpectedly, they stumbled upon something strange. There, partially buried under leaves and dark earth, was a collar. It gleamed in the faint light like a silver coin, but there was no name tag, no ID. Sarah knelt, her hands trembling, as she recognized the collar. It had belonged to Max's mom. "Look!" Linda gasped, drawing back as if stung. "But how can this be here? It's not possible. Keep looking, he has to be around here somewhere." Sarah pressed on, desperate hope bleeding into her voice. The calling howl rose again, but this time, it seemed to come from deeper within the woods, a hollow, urgent plea that hung in the air like a malevolent specter. It filled the night, freezing the blood in their veins. Just then, a figure darted through the fuzziness of the shadows. A massive shape, dark and daunting, shot past them in a blur. Sarah's heart dropped into the pit of her stomach. "Did you see that?" she croaked. Her voice cracked with terror. Linda's face turned pale. "What if it's not Max?" She managed to breathe. The howl escalated, louder and more frantic, pulling them up short. Their breaths quickened, matching the rhythm of their heartbeats. The question lingered heavily in the air. What if they weren't the hunters, but the hunted? Then came a chilling realization. There could be something more than just a ghostly lament hidden in those woods. Something waiting for them, Now faced with the darkness ahead, which flickered with shadows that seemed to tease their frayed nerves, they must decide: turn back to safety or plunge deeper into the unknown, risking everything to discover the truth that lay waiting just beyond those trees. What would they find next? And more importantly, could they handle what was about to unfold? "Did you see that?" Sarah repeated, her voice steadier this time, even as panic flickered in her eyes. The shape was gone, swallowed by the darkness, but the howl echoed again, sharp and unnatural. A shiver crawled up her spine. "Sarah, we shouldn't be here. We need to go back," Linda urged, gripping her daughter's arm tightly. There was fear in her eyes, the kind that made her skin pale and her voice tremble. But Sarah was already shaking her head, back straight, determination mingling with dread. "No! What if it's Max? We can't leave him." An urgency propelled her forward, pressing through the tangled roots and shadows. She could feel her heart racing, a wild drumbeat syncing with her frantic footsteps. A sudden crack of a twig to their left made both women freeze again. Eyes wide, they remained still, hardly daring to breathe. A rustle followed, deep and menacing. They shifted subtly, trying to make sense of the noise. Just the wind, Sarah told herself, but the gnawing doubt said otherwise. "Max?" she called again, her voice echoing softly in the thickening darkness. This time, she held on to the hope that he would answer, that he would bound back to them, bringing the light of safety with him. Instead, a low growl cut through the night, unmistakably close. It was a sound embedded in instinct of primal warning. "Let us go!" Linda's voice shook as she pulled Sarah by the hand, fighting the urge to flee into the night. Sarah resisted for just a moment, scanning the blackness for movement, but then a flash of movement caught her eye, a ghostly figure of a tall creature slinking between trees. It was almost human, but the way it moved was wrong, too fluid, too silent. "Mom, look!" Sarah gasped, choking on the fear that gripped her throat. It lingered in the air, a dreadful premonition. "What is that?" "I don't know, but we need to backtrack," Linda insisted, still pulling, desperation mingling in her tone. But just then, another howl broke through the underbrush, a heart-wrenching cry that danced between pain and panic. It was unmistakably Max, and it pinched Sarah's heart with every ounce of anguish. "Just a little further, I can feel him," she insisted, pulling free from her mother's grasp, sprinting ahead. Linda hesitated, fear battling her instinct to protect her daughter. "Sarah, wait!" she called, but Sarah was already lost in the brush, the trees engulfing her until she could barely see. The growls followed, angry and guttural, as if trying to claim her for their own. Her heart pounded louder than anything else, drowning out Linda's pleas. She stumbled into a small clearing, breathless, eyes wide. The figure was there again, lurking, half hidden by shadows, a massive beast with hollow eyes shimmering, claws gleaming in the moonlight. "Max!" she shouted again, desperation spilling from her heart, mingling with the terror. And then, something flickered behind the beast, a movement. Another dog? It was dark, indistinct, but the form looked familiar. "Mom!" Sarah screamed as Linda caught up, her face twisted in terror, her earlier caution gone. The creature turned towards them, and in that instant, Sarah was frozen, unable to look away, unable to move. Before they could react, the shadows shifted, revealing what lay behind the monstrous figure, a glimmer of fur. "Max?" Hope flickered, but then the creature edged closer, its breath hot and rancid, as it shifted just enough to form a shape that was just an animal, but something darker, something twisted. Suddenly, it lunged. "Sarah!" Linda screamed, reaching forward just as the darkness concealed everything, engulfing her daughter in a fold of night. The world erupted into chaos, noise ricocheting, screams mingling with savage growls. Then, an echo that dropped them into the deepest depths of despair, a final howl, a plea that shattered the surrounding silence. In that moment, they weren't just facing a creature of the night, but something that craved much more. Something that breathed the very essence of nightmare. As the dust settled, a heavy silence enveloped the clearing. The haunting remains of their bravery were swept away in the darkness. Would they ever escape this unfathomable reality? The question lingered, twisting in their throats. What had they awakened in the woods? The shadow of the beast loomed larger than they'd ever imagined, and something told them their battle was just beginning. The air was thick with dread as the clearing sank back into obscurity. Linda's heart raced in her chest, every desperate thud an insistent echo of her panic. She stood at the edge of the darkness, the veil of night swallowing Sarah whole, her cries bouncing off unseen walls, fading into the beat of her own throbbing fear. "Sarah!" She stumbled forward, her voice cracking, the name tumbling from her lips like a prayer soaked in desperation. But silence answered. The last vestiges of noise had evaporated like the fog creeping through the trees. Linda's stomach twisted as she scanned the shadows for any sign of movement, any clue of where Sarah had been taken. The growling intensified, circling around her like the tightening grip of a noose. She turned, determined not to let fear seal her fate. "Max!" she shouted, the break in her voice betraying her composure. "I'm coming!" Each step felt like a misstep deep into a nightmarish dream. The darkness pressed against her, the air stagnant and cold, wrapping her in an unwanted embrace. Every rustle of the leaves felt like fingers reaching out, trying to snatch her away. Yanking at her phone, she flicked the flashlight on, the beam slicing through the thick blackness. For a moment, it was blinding, illuminating swaths of bark and twisting branches. But as the light danced, her breath caught in her throat. The creature was gone. Gone? Where had it gone? The realization hit her as she turned slowly, scanning the clearing for any sign, not just of the beast, but of her daughter. Max's anguished cries still flickered faintly in her mind, ghostly echoes fading into memory. "Hold on, sweetie. I want to leave you," she called again, her own resolve building with every anguished repetition. Suddenly, a scuffling sound scratched at the ground, gnawing at her focus. Not distinct but primal, like something fierce lurking right behind her. Her heart tumbled. "Sarah?" she whispered again, the fear surging back, flooding her veins. A rustle sounded to her left. She turned, springing the flashlight towards it. Nothing but branches. Just branches bending under the weight of a restless breeze. The heartbeat of the forest pulsed around her, each rustle pregnant with menace. Then she caught a glimpse of flash of movement near the edge of the beams. A dark figure flitting between the trees. Her instincts roared to life. "Sarah?" Again no answer. But the figure paused. There it was again, shifting in and out of her light, sliding like a whisper. Long limbs, too many joints, moved with an otherworldly grace. Panic clawed at her throat, the primal urge to flee consumed her. But she would not run. Not without knowing, without finding Sarah. Then, like a bolt of electricity, a chilling howl ripped through the night, reverberating off the trees. The sound was sickeningly close, an agony that mirrored her own. It was followed by something worse. A wail of despair, a child's wail. "Sarah!" Linda screamed, her breath hitching at the sound. She sprinted towards the noise, propelled by instinct, every fiber in her body screaming for her daughter. The flashlight flickered as she plunged deeper into the woods, branches clawing at her clothes, as if the forest itself were trying to keep her from her mission. The cries grew louder, punctuated by snarls. The beast was near, its hunger palpable, primal. She could feel its breath like ice on her skin. Then, ahead, she spotted a small, frail figure half hidden in the underbrush. "Sarah!" But even as hope ignited within her, dread clutched at Linda's heart. The shape was not what she had expected. It was not Sarah she saw. The shadows shifted again, and she could see it was just the creature she feared. The echoes of more growls seemed to gather in the darkness, converging on her location, what was lurking just beyond her flashlight's reach. And what terrifying truth awaited them as she closed the distance? The air crackled with a sinister promise, a revelation that would change everything. Linda's heart plummeted as she realized the shadow was Sarah. It lunged with a swiftness that turned her veins to ice. This creature was a nightmare given form. Its eyes glowed like embers, hunger etched into its thin frame. She would have backed away, but something held her there, rooted in disbelief. "Stay back," she shouted, the words shot from her lips, wild and desperate. Instantly, the creature halted, head cocked to one side, as if considering her. Behind it, movement shifted in the shadows, a few more shapes, their forms blending with the night. Chattering whispers echoed, a horrific chorus of voices surrounding her. "Sarah!" Linda breathed, straining to push the darkness away. She couldn't lose her daughter to whatever horrors lurked here. The creature in front of her recoiled, revealing disjointed limbs, and limbs that twisted unnaturally, as if each joint defied reality. It issued a low growl, a sound that slithered into her mind, igniting a surge of primal fear. "Leave her alone!" she screamed. Suddenly, a shriek pierced through the stillness, a voice unmistakably Sarah's. Linda's heart raced again, renewed by both dread and a flicker of hope. She forced her legs into motion, closing the distance to where the form had vanished moments before. "Hold on, Sarah. I'm coming!" As she advanced, the cries erupted into a frantic soundscape, wild and pleading. Linda's flashlight sputtered, flickered, and she fought against its failure. Every rustle set her heart lurching. The growls were not just behind her anymore, they were drawing nearer. She moved with reckless determination, brushing past branches that clawed at her skin, her breath coming in sharp gasps. Each echo of Sarah's voice pressed her to move faster. The brush thickened as she delved deeper into the underbrush, the weight of the forest closing in around her like a vice. Then she stumbled into a small clearing. It lay bathed in a sickly glow, an unnatural light that seemed to pulse in sync with the shivers running down her spine. In the center lay a pile of bones, more than a handful animal, and something else, something that twisted her stomach. "Sarah!" She felt bile rise in her throat, but she couldn't turn back now. "Where are you?" Panic clawed at her sanity, every instinct screaming for her to escape. She swiveled the flashlight around, heart sinking as the darkness closed in tighter. And then, out of the corner of her eye, she caught sight of movement. A little figure clinging to the edge of the clearing, small, trembling. Linda felt herself sigh with relief, hope brightly igniting. "Sarah! I see you!" But as she reached out, wrenching the light towards the child, the figure twisted into the shadows. "No!" The emptiness that followed the light's disappearance closed in, and she could hear the faintest hiss, like a warning etched on the air. The creatures emerged, a swarm of them, fur glistening and eyes glowing with menace. They were not merely watching, they were hungry. "Run!" Linda yelled, but her voice faltered, fear spilling into every syllable. She darted forward, arms stretched out to grab her daughter and pull her into safety. But she underestimated the shadows that unfurled around her, edging closer with every frantic heartbeat. The creatures moved in unison, blocking her path, each breath of their foul scent pushed against her, threatening to choke her resolve. Linda, flooded with adrenaline, had one option left: give her back. Before she could consider the implications of her words, the darkness coiled tighter, and a single pair of glowing eyes locked onto hers, unfathomable and ancient. The air thickened, and the chilling howl erupted once more, weaving through the space, wrapping around her bones. It was a snarl, a promise of a truth that was twisting into something far more sinister than the night itself. Just as she felt the ground shift beneath her, a force pulled at her emotions, and for an agonizing moment, the ghosts of the forest enveloped her. What would it take to save her daughter? And at what cost would she uncover the darkness lurking beneath? With a fierce roar of defiance, she charged into the horde, light flickering uncertainly, but the growing shadows whispered of an even darker truth. Linda plunged forward, heart racing, her instincts screaming at her to survive, to save Sarah. The light from the flashlight danced erratically, illuminating more of the grotesque creatures circling her. They were no longer human. They had transcended into something primal, their eyes filled with an eerie intelligence that twisted her gut. A single, twisted figure lunged at her, its elongated claws slicing through the air. She ducked just in time, rolling onto the damp ground. The muck clung to her skin, a reminder of the horrors enveloping her. She scrambled up, legs trembling, eyes darting, looking for any glimpse of her daughter. "Sarah!" she screamed, voice hoarse with desperation. From the shadows, a faint whimper broke through the cacophony. Her heart leaped again. Those tiny sounds had to be Sarah. But as she cursed herself for hesitating, Another wave of growls reverberated through the clearing. The creatures were impatient, prowling closer, their anticipation palpable like a fever in the air. Instinctively, she raised the flashlight again, its beam now dangerously low, flickering weakly. The glimpse she caught of their gnarled faces sent ice coursing through her veins. This time, she wouldn't let fear paralyze her. "Get away from her," she shouted, and with a fierce determination that come from the depths of a mother's love, she swung the flashlight like a weapon. The feeble light struck one creature right in the face, causing it to recoil with a hiss that echoed like metal on metal. Fueled by adrenaline, Linda ran towards the edge of the clearing. She had no plan, no escape route. Just a singular need to get to Sarah. The forest's undergrowth snapped under her feet, branches snagging at her clothes, but she pressed on, propelled by the hope of finding her daughter. Sarah! The name felt like a lifeline. It pulled her forward. Suddenly, she tripped over something, perhaps a root, perhaps a bone. Sprawling onto the ground, the flashlight flumbled away, clattering into the dark. Panic surged anew as the darkness swallowed her surroundings. Then she heard it again, the slightest sound, soft but unmistakable. Mom, tears burst forth, flooding her eyes. "I'm coming, baby." With instinct guiding her, Linda lunged toward the voice, hands brushing against the forest floor, desperate to locate the light. Just as she grasped the handle, she felt something hot and fetid breathe over her shoulder. It was behind her. With a deafening roar, the creature struck. She swung the flashlight around blindly, the beam illuminating the monster's snarling visage, its teeth sharp and glistening with a drool that hung ominously in the air. It lunged again, and in that instant, her fear shrank into sheer willpower. "Not today," she screamed, swinging the flashlight like a bat. The beam connected, and the monster yelped a sound that shocked Linda to her core. It staggered back, confusion momentarily flickering within its monstrous eyes, but the respite was brief. The other creatures were unfazed, relentlessly moving toward her. They shifted with unnerving speed. She could sense them prowling, encircling like a pack of wolves ready to feast. Without reason, she bolted in the direction of Sarah's voice, adrenaline flooding her veins. The clearing was alive with sound, the distant echoes of growls, the suffocating night buzzing with dread. "Sarah! Where are you?" Panic surged through her voice, amplifying the urgency in each syllable. Finally, she spotted a shadowy figure a few paces ahead, half hidden behind a warped tree. A small, hazy shape emerged from the blackness. "Mom!" But before she could close the distance, the air shattered with a cacophony of growls, blocking her path yet again. The ground quaked beneath their feet as they surged towards her. A nightmarish tide. A choice surged through her mind: fight or flight. She glanced back at Sarah, the fear etched on the child's face hardened her resolve. Whatever it took, she would protect her. Gathering every ounce of strength, Linda planted her feet, prepared to face the impending wave of horrors, when suddenly a blinding flash of light burst from beyond the trees. It illuminated the clearing, and the creatures faltered, hissing as they shrank back. "Mom!" Sarah shouted, and suddenly Linda felt the warmth of her daughter's hand grip hers. But was the light salvation or a deeper trap? The glow pulsated threateningly, shifting the dynamics of fear. As they stood, breathless and locked together, the truth loomed just beyond the shadows, what lay beyond the light, waiting to be uncovered. Linda clutched Sarah's hand, her heart hammering in her chest as the blinding light wrapped around them like a cocoon. The creatures snarled from the darkness, retreating into the shadows, their forms twisting away like smoke. But even as the immediate threat lessened, dread gnawed at her insides. "Mom, what's happening?" Sarah's small voice trembled, her wide eyes reflecting the eerie light. "I don't know, sweetheart," Linda whispered, forcing a calmness she didn't feel. The light bathed them both, brightening the gnarled roots and midnight foliage. But the luminescence felt alive, as if it were breathing, pulsing with an ancient rhythm that hung heavy in the air. Suddenly, the glow transformed, flickering like a candle caught in a draught, and Linda felt a shiver run down her spine. "Stay close," she warned, tightening her grip on Sarah's hand. They had to keep moving. Staying in one place was a death sentence. With the forest alive with unsettling sounds, they stumbled deeper into the brightness, searching for safety. But every step felt laborious. Each shadow around them seemed to pulse with menace. The flickering light painted eerie murals on the trees, twisting their shapes into grotesque parodies. "Where are we going?" Sarah's voice broke through the oppressive darkness, a reminder of the urgency motivating Linda. "I don't know," she admitted, choking on her fear. "Anywhere but here." The air prickled with tension, and just as they edged forward, Linda noticed a glint in the light. A path, barely visible beneath the underbrush. It led away from the clearing, a desperate invitation. "Over here," she urged, pulling Sarah along with her as they dove into the narrow passage. The light flickered again, like a beacon urging them onward. Each moment felt drawn out, as if time had warped in this cursed forest. The creatures still lurked nearby. She could feel their presence, cold and predatory, like a chill creeping up her spine. They were regrouping. She could hear their growls rumbling in the distance. "Mom," Sarah's voice faltered. Her small frame pressed close as they navigated the path. "Will we be okay?" Linda bit her lip, struggling against the storm of emotions threatening to choke her. "Yes, we will," she lied, unwilling to let Sarah see the panic radiating from her own trembling body. But then Sarah gasped. A new source of light emerged up ahead, a shimmering glow that beckoned them. "Look, Mom!" As they reached the edge of the path, the comforting glow intensified, revealing a clearing nestled deep within the forest. It radiated warmth, casting a brilliant hue on the dark trunks surrounding them. "We should go," she said, uncertainty lacing her voice. But when they stepped into the clearing, the light shifted again, morphing into shadows. The glow flickered out, leaving Linda and Sarah stranded in the suffocating darkness once more. Despair clawed at her throat. "No, no," and that S when she saw it. A figure stood at the center, cloaked in shadows, the light revealing only part of its face, a gaunt visage with hollow eyes that glinted with knowledge, an expression that seemed to assess them, judging and calculating. "Who are you?" Linda shouted, her voice steady despite the fear spilling from her chest. The figure offered no answer, instead extending a hand toward them, an invitation laced with unfathomable intentions. "Come closer," Linda's instincts screamed at her to flee, but Sarah stepped forward, captivated. "Mom, look! It's safe!" Linda felt her heart race. Was it a trap? Or a glimmer of hope, however fleeting? "Sarah, no!" she cried out, lunging forward to pull her back. But as she reached for her daughter, the figure smiled a smile that sent ice through Linda's veins. "What lies beyond is not what you think," whispered the figure, and with those chilling words, the world turned upside down. In that instant, the ground trembled, and the underbrush rustled with violent energy. The creatures were closing in, their roars now blending with the ominous laughter that echoed from the cloaked figure. "Mom!" Sarah screamed, and Linda barely had time to react. Was this the end? Or was it the beginning of something even darker that lurked just beyond the slumbering shadows? Without a second thought, Linda grabbed Sarah tightly, bracing for the unknown. "Hold on tight," she whispered, ready to plunge into the abyss that awaited them, unsure if salvation or doom lay on the other side. But when they crossed into the unknown, would they find redemption or horror? The world twisted violently as they were sucked into the unknown, a scream wedged in Linda's throat. Darkness enveloped them, swirling like a tempest. Time lost meaning. Suddenly, they landed on a hard surface, sprawling onto an uneven ground. Dust and leaves swirled around them, catching the last remnants of the fading light. Linda blinked, trying to adjust her vision, only to find her surroundings shrouded in a dim gray. "Mom, are we safe?" Sarah sounded breathless, panic quivering in her voice. Linda glanced at her daughter, feeling for the first time ever that she couldn't protect her. Fear tightened like a vice around her chest, suffocating her resolve. "I don't know, Sarah," she replied, her heart racing. "We need to stay alert." They scrambled to their feet, wincing at the eerie silence that replaced the chaos. The figures had vanished, gone, but not forgotten. Linda felt eyes watching them from the surrounding gloom. A chill swept through the air, sending shivers coursing down her arms. Something was here, something that thrived in fear. A low rumbling echoing ominously in the distance. "We can't stay," she whispered, determination mingling with dread. She led Sarah forward cautiously, each step a painful reminder of the looming threat. Before long, the grayness began to thin. Shapes transformed, revealing a path that branched off into a bustling path to the right and a shadowy one to the left that seemed to beckon them. "Mom, which way?" Sarah's voice trembled. Linda hesitated, glancing from the path where faint whispers floated to the air, to the ominous shadows that pulsed like living creatures. "The right? It sounds safer," her voice faltered. Were they still being lured into a trap? As they moved down the right path, the ambient noise grew louder, chaotic yet rhythmic, like a heartbeat. Shadows began to dance along the trees that flanked them, pulsing and shifting in a frantic symphony. "Oh no, Mom!" Sarah gasped, pointing at a dark shape slinking across their path. A creature low to the ground, its eyes glowing like coals in the dark. Linda froze. It was unlike the figures they had encountered before. This one was feral, snarling with a primal hunger. "Run!" she screamed. But before she could grab Sarah's hand, the creature lunged. Linda yanked Sarah toward the left path without thinking. Desperation fueled her as they darted into the darkness. The sounds of their pursuers faded momentarily, but the fear curling inside her chest only grew tighter. "Mom, what if we're lost?" Sarah's innocent question pierced through the veil of fear. She felt a lump in her throat. "We're fine. Just keep going." But she knew they both felt the truth. They were spiraling deeper into an abyss. Suddenly, the shadows parted, revealing a small clearing. To their left stood an ancient stone archway, adorned with eerie carvings that seemed to shift under scrutiny. "What is that?" Sarah breathed, hesitating as the air thickened with an unsettling anticipation. Linda approached cautiously, hands trembling. "I don't know, but it looks like a way out." Before she could step closer, a loud crack thundered from the tree line, and the growls resumed, now much closer. "Mom!" Sarah shouted, clutching her hand even tighter. Time was slipping away. Linda could sense the creature's presence stalking them closer, and the air buzzed with an urgent energy. The archway loomed larger, as if it knew their plight, an escape into the unknown, or a final gateway to oblivion. With courage sparked by adrenaline, Linda took a breath and stepped toward the archway. "We have to take the chance, honey. It could be our only hope." But just as they moved closer, a shadow emerged from the trees, a hulking figure that blocked their path. Linda's heart dropped. It was the figure from before, now blocking their way to freedom. "Beyond this archway lies a truth far more terrifying than you can imagine," it hissed, its hollow eyes glinting ominously. Linda faltered, reeling. What other horrors lay ahead? She looked at Sarah, who stood wide-eyed and trembling, a mirror of her own fear. Could they face what was waiting for them? Choosing was not an option anymore. "We're going in," she stated, voice unwavering, even as every instinct warned her otherwise. But as they stepped toward the archway, the figure exploded into laughter, reverberating through the air like thunder. And in that moment, they crossed the threshold, unprepared for what lay on the other side, unaware that they had just entered the heart of darkness itself. What awaited them, their salvation or ultimate doom? The moment they crossed the threshold, an electric current surged through Linda's body, sending her nerves into overdrive. Shadows twisted and writhed around them, and the air thickened with malevolence. They stumbled into a world awash in pale light, a stark contrast to the chaos they had just left. The clarity was disorienting. Instead of the haze of darkness, they stood before a barren landscape that seemed to pulsate with an eerie energy. The ground was a cracked, parched earth, scattered with remnants of forgotten memories, a child's toy, a tattered photograph, and an empty shoe. Each object felt like a fragment of a larger story, whispering secrets from a time long lost. "Mom, where are we?" Sarah's voice trembled again, echoing the uncertainty flooding Linda's heart. She reached for her daughter's hand, squeezing it tighter, anchoring them in this strange reality. Linda began, but the words caught in her throat. They were in a graveyard of lost hopes. Somehow, she sensed that whatever this place was, it had the power to unearth the truths they wished to avoid. The wind howled around them, carrying faint whispers, twisting them into haunting melodies of regret. Suddenly, the ground quaked beneath their feet, and a low growl echoed from the distance, creeping ever closer. Linda glanced nervously toward the source, and noticed a dark mass building at the edge of the clearing. The air felt charged, alive with the menacing presence of whatever lurked just out of sight. "Mom, we have to go," Sarah cried, but her eyes were transfixed on the shadows forming at the tree line. Tiny sparks of light flickered within them, revealing vague shapes. There were more creatures here, their forms shifting, merging with the darkness. Yet something intimate drew Linda here, a whisper, a call. She could taste its urgency on her tongue. "We can't go back, Sarah. We need to find out what this is." Before her daughter could argue, a figure emerged from the wavering shadows, not one of the feral creatures, but a pale specter, a reflection of despair. It had the familiar outline of someone Linda knew all too well. "Mom?" Sarah breathed, tears building in her eyes. The ghostly figure took a step nearer, and Linda's heart nearly stopped. It was her own mother, lost years ago, yet here she stood, ethereal and filled with sorrow. "Do not be afraid," the apparition whispered, voice like a distant echo. "There is a path you must choose. One leads to freedom, the other holds the truth buried in pain." "Mom, is that really you?" Linda's voice cracked, torn between longing and disbelief. She stepped forward, but the specter shook its head, fading slightly. "I cannot help you. You need to confront your own fears, Linda. The darkness feeds on your doubts." A gust of wind swept through, sending chills down Linda's spine. Then came the sound of a bone-chilling howl, piercing the veil of their reunion. The creatures were advancing. Shadows leapt and flickered, growing bolder now. "Don't listen," Sarah screamed, pulling at Linda's arm. "Let us go back." But the specter smiled sadly, and suddenly, from behind it, another face emerged, a haunting visage, twisted with rage and regret. It was undoubtedly tied to the darkness around them, a part of the looming threat. Linda felt her heart break, the truth of her past clawing to surface. In that instant, she understood the whisper wasn't only for her. It was for Sarah as well, a plea ground in generations of pain. They both needed to make a choice, to escape and remain ignorant, or to face the hidden horrors that linked their fates. "Sarah, I need you to trust me," Linda said, her voice steadier despite the fear bubbling within her. "We have to uncover the truth together. We can't let the past haunt us." But as she turned back toward the shadowy figures, the ground trembled again, and all at once, darkness surged, swarming toward them, ready to swallow them whole. "Mom!" Sarah screamed, the terror in her voice sending Linda's heart racing. "Hold on tight," she yelled, pulling her daughter close, unwilling to surrender to the chaos. Could they confront the shadows of their past? Or would they be consumed by their choices, lost in the depths of despair forever? With a frantic heart, Linda took a step forward into the looming darkness, leaving behind everything familiar. Whatever awaited them, one thing was clear: they were about to face the unimaginable truth. As the shadows closed in, a chilling laugh echoed around them, and Linda realized that perhaps the greatest horrors lay not in what they would encounter, but in the revelations that awaited in the depths of unknown darkness. As Linda and Sarah stepped deeper into the lurking darkness, their breaths quickened, and a cascade of memories crashed over them, drowning them in uneasy fears. The shadows twisted threateningly, yet they pressed on, hand in hand, fueled by an unshakable bond and an urgency to confront what lay ahead. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shifted once more, the landscape warping into a nightmarish tableau of their past. Memories long buried began to unfold around them, a collage of sorrowful events, moments of fear and love intertwined, stretching endlessly before their eyes. "Mom, where are we?" Sarah's voice trembled, the innocence stripped away as she looked at the floating images reflecting their life. "This is our past," Linda murmured, her heart pounding, eyes darting at the familiar figures surrounding them, faces of loved ones lost, and beings that pierced through her with regret. "We need to be brave, Sarah. We have to face it together." From the shadows swarmed voices, echoing accusations and whispers of despair. Each face morphed into another, drawing back memories of moments where love and pain coexisted, shaping the very fabric of who they were. In moments of darkness, we can either fight or flee. The specter of her mother reappeared, radiating warmth amidst uncertainty. "You have a choice to make for yourself and for each other." A low growl rumbled again, this time accompanied by a vivid flash, illuminating hundreds of shadowy figures around them. They were the manifestations of Linda's fears, the regrets that coiled deep within her heart. They crowded, inching closer, their presence almost suffocating. "Mom!" Sarah clutched her hand tighter, fear pooling in her wide eyes. "What if they come for us?" "They only take what we provide," Linda replied, steeling her resolve. "If we confront them, if we refuse to run, we can break free." Summoning the last remnants of her courage, Linda turned to face the serenading void, her heart steadying. "I am not afraid of you. You do not own me." The words rose from her throat, powerful and unwavering. The creatures hissed, retreating slightly, as the boldness of her voice rippled through the air. The specter of her mother smiled. "Face your shadows, Linda. Only then will you claim the light." With that, the darkness writhed, pulling the tendrils of pain into the light with a roar that echoed through her body. Linda could feel the tension melting away, a soft glow beginning to emanate from within her, radiating warmth. Holding Sarah close, she whispered, "Remember the love we share? Nothing can touch that. Nothing." Sarah echoed, her voice breaking the growing tension. Their shared conviction erupted anew, each pulse of light pushing back against the advancing darkness. The monstrous glimpses of their fears shrank as they stood resolutely, bolstered by their love, by their bond of force that penetrated the very essence of the shadows. Suddenly, there came a brilliant flash, blinding in its intensity, as the tethered memories snapped finally free. Colors exploded around them, swirling with life, memories shifting from despair to joy. Linda pulled Sarah close, Laura's form flickering like a candle caught in the wind. "Your choices give power to the shadows or your light. Love conquers fear." As her mother's apparition faded, warmth enveloped them, lifting their spirits to new heights. Then, for the first time, they beheld vast silhouettes forming, coming together to meld and diverge, crafting a new form of life. A dawning realization illuminated their surroundings. They had emerged into a brilliant, sunlit grove, where flowers blossomed radiantly beneath shimmering beams of light. The monsters dissolved, blurred into shifting mist, retreating further into the darkness they had once known. "We did it, Mom!" Sarah laughed, tears of relief streaming down her cheeks. Linda cupped Sarah's face in her trembling hands, relief washing over her. Yes, my love. We faced it. Together. As they stepped forward through the grove, a path unfurled beneath them, lined with vibrant colors. The resolve and bravery they had found together emboldened their spirits, a clearing of hope that stretched endlessly, free of haunting shadows. With every step, a warmth enveloped them, a reassurance that they had chosen love over fear, reclaiming both their past and their future. Let us go home, Linda whispered, squeezing Sarah's hand. Yes, let us go home, she rejoiced. And as they moved toward the future, the haunting echoes of the night faded, a mere ghost of what had been. They turned around one last time to face the shadows. They were just shadows now, safe in their memories, trailing behind them like remnants of a closed chapter. Exhaling deeply, Linda knew they would always carry the lessons of love and courage from that dark night. But for now, they embraced the dawn, knowing that the most powerful light was the one they had ignited within themselves, an unbreakable bond that would guide them through any storm to come. Their story would go on. You need to subscribe now to catch more exclusive stories that will leave you on the edge of your seat. This is the moment to show your support and ensure you don't miss out on future adventures. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow this amazing community. And flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories about this conclusion. We want to hear from you. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this ending. Everyone deserves to be a part of this journey.